Hello artists, I am Mr. McCaffrey, and this class is called Introduction to Studio Art. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. As always, we're going to begin by sharpening our pencils. Okay, cones. Other than traffic cones and birthday hats, there's not a lot of straight up cone-shaped things. But of course, cones are used very often in making other complex forms. So like if we're going to make a rocket, the cone is going to make up different parts of that rocket. So we do need to know how to shade them in. And these cones are kind of rounded objects, similar to the sphere. And so we're going to shade it in a kind of similar way, except for, of course, the basic shape is a triangle. I like to always start with the shadows and to shade everything in kind of a medium, even, middle gray tone. And then once I've got everything kind of that middle gray light tone, I'm going to start pressing a little bit harder and shading in the darker areas and making those areas a little darker. We're going to build them up layer by layer, and that's going to really give us a good effect of a three-dimensional object. Okay, so we have ourselves a cone, and now what we need to do is transform it into a thing. I'm going to go with birthday hat, just because it's real easy and it's pretty fun. Some sparkles at the top and some stripes. Sometimes our cones are going to be pyramids, and then we just do a straight line instead of a curved line at the bottom. Fun to shade in. One side gets pretty dark, one side stays pretty light, and the cast shadow on the bottom should be dark as well. Then we're just going to give it some lines for a brick texture, and we've got our pyramids of Giza. Classic traffic cone. They're square at the bottom for more stability. The shadows are going to affect the cone itself, so we're going to have some shadows on the cone. And then we have a traffic cone. Don't forget about your beverage breaks. Okay, so this one is kind of halfway in between a cylinder and a cone, and that's all right. That's actually what drawing is all about, is taking these basic forms and merging them together and just understanding kind of how they exist in a three-dimensional space and making sure that you shade them in appropriately. Right, so most of the time when we're using drawing in our regular lives, where we're drawing things that we are excited about drawing, these cones are going to be part of other objects. So again, here's a rocket. This rocket has a cone for a nose and a cone for rocket engines, and those things are all cone-shaped, and my knowledge of how to shade in a cone has helped with this drawing. And so has my son. Okay, classic ice cream cone. It's a cone flipped upside down from how we've normally drawn it, but all of the same shading elements apply. There's going to be a light side and a darker side. And then, of course, it's a cone, and I like myself a waffle cone, and so we got to give that waffle texture. This is obviously mint chocolate chip, one of the best ice cream flavors there is. Okay, there she is, all 10 cones. They all got to be slightly different, majorly detailed, and shaded in. Okay guys, the cylinder is super important. It's kind of the base of a lot of different things that we want to draw. So I like to start with 2 dots that are on the same horizontal line, and then we connect them, one with a line that looks like a smiley face and another with a line that looks like a frowny face. And the more symmetrical or similar or the same we can make those curves, the better those cylinders will look. And the lines at the bottom should mirror or be the same as the lines at the top, especially if we're going to draw a see-through object like a glass cup or a wine glass or any other clear glass objects. This one will not be clear. It will be an old tin can that doesn't even have any wrappings on it, and it will give us the perfect opportunity to practice our shading. So again, we're going to start by adding a very medium to light layer of shading. And we're going to do it as smoothly as we can using a sharp wooden pencil and the edge of that graphite on the wooden pencil. Once we get kind of a light to medium layer, whoops, forgot the light source and the shadow. Again, the light source is in the upper right-hand corner, and I like to use the light source as kind of a guide to let me know where the shadow is. So I just draw kind of a straight line from the light source to the edge of the object, and that helps me know what direction that shadow should move in. Now the top of the cylinder is rounded, so the bottom of the shadow is also rounded. And again, I like to shade it in. Medium gray value at this point. There shouldn't be anything very dark. But once we get kind of a nice solid layer, we're going to go ahead and work to make it smooth. Okay, when we're shading in an empty cylinder, the bottom is going to be dark, and it's going to gradually get lighter as we move up towards the top. And this is going to go ahead and make it look like an empty cylinder. If we wanted to draw a cylinder that had the lid on the top, the shadow would be the opposite. The very far edge, the second line that we drew, the frowny face line, that would be the one that was dark, and it would gradually get lighter as it moved closer towards us. You'll also notice I'm shading kind of in these horizontal curved lines, and that's going to help us understand that our can is in fact a can. One of my very last steps is to go through and draw these clear lines. We can't forget about the lid. If we're opening up unknown beans, we're definitely going to leave the lid on. And then I'm just going to smooth out that shadow, erase around the edges, add a few more details, and naturally, we're done. We have a tin can. Okay, now of course the goal is to draw 9 more cylinders. I'm going to go ahead and start with some cups. Here we have a coffee cup. Of course we've added a handle. Here we've got a little wine glass. You'll notice I started with a cylinder and then I used the cylinder to let me know where the bottom was and how to draw the bottom, and then I erased the sides. Bing bang boom, you've got a wine glass. Finally, of course, we'll test out a little wine bottle, which we start the same way. We make a little smaller, and we have a little wine bottle. All of these are made out of some part of the cylinder. Baseball bats can certainly be drawn better than this, but this one is okay, and it kind of helps us remind ourselves that baseball bats are in fact cylinders. And our teachers sometimes don't draw great stuff. Alright, we're going to really put our cylinder skills to the test with this one. It's a telescope, and it's made out of a whole ton of cylinders. In order for this to be successful, we want to focus on the shading. We want to pick one side of it. We want to remember that the cylinder, when it telescopes out, some of these are bigger than others, and the bigger ones are going to cast a shadow on the smaller ones. And again, very important that we build up layers slowly and then add some shadows and highlights. A very popular and fun thing to draw is a vase. People love looking at them. There's examples all over art history. We'll practice flowers at a later date. But again, a vase starts off as a regular cylinder, and then we just change sides of it so that it comes a slightly different shape. All of the shading rules still apply. Finally, we'll do a little poison goblet. Remember, if the thing you are drawing is made of clear glass, you should be able to see some of it along the very bottom. Always label your poison bottles so people know not to drink them. October is here, so let's make some spooky stuff. Here's a boiling cauldron, something what a witch might use to boil some little children. And finally, tin cans are great, but a soup can is of course a very famous art thing to draw, so let's do one. Tomato soup, classic. And of course, we're looking for soda cans. Soda cans are everywhere. Let's go ahead and draw one of those. And what really actually exists in a soda can? Yeah, that's right, you guessed it, poison! Don't drink soda, it's not good for you. Okay, good luck. Remember, your 10 don't have to look like my 10, but they do have to have a similar amount of shadows, details, and creativity.
Does my picture have to look like your picture?
No, definitely not. I want your art to be about you and to look like you.
Can my picture look like your picture?
Yes, of course. I'm an art teacher. You can absolutely copy what I've done.
What if my drawing isn't perfect? What if I'm terrible at art?
Well, no drawing is ever perfect, so we don't have to worry about that. What we do have to worry about is improving on our past performance.
Do I have to take a picture of this when I'm done?
Yes. Every single time you complete an assignment in this class, you must photograph it and turn it in on Google Classroom. Every single time. Whoa! You did it! You finished! All you have to do now is take a picture of your work and turn it in on Google Classroom.